What is up, Overwatch community? My name is Trips, and welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint. This week, we are going to be talking about the World Cup. We're going to talk about the patch notes that literally just launched. They went live. It's just the start of Season 2. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of the new map now that we actually had a chance to play it. And we might be giving away a copy of the game that I told you guys about last cast. But before we get into that, I do want to welcome back to the show, Volcha.
Hi.
And Yiska.
Hello.
So I want to get the giveaway out of the way first. Last cast, because we hit 100 subs on YouTube, which was our milestone to get our URL, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an incentive and a thank you. So I'm giving away a copy of the standard game itself. If you do play on console, we're going to have to work something out as far as, getting the actual physical game to you or trying to figure out if they sell it on the market because I'm not proficient in that. But, if you do win and you do have a console, don't be afraid. Just let me know and we'll work something out personally. I'm going to be messaging you on YouTube because that's where the comments are from. So if I picked you, please check your messages. If I don't hear back from that person, I'm going to pick another name. I'm going to do that pick off cast. This is just going to be the only live one. So I have listed here, I believe, 11 names from the comments that people, wanted to enter the giveaway. And I have it listed into a random number or random name picker. So an easy name to pronounce. Fast Break.
Nice.
Yes.
Because that guy has actually been following us for a long time. And I remember him tweeting at me. So that's like the nicest guy to get it. And yeah. I do believe he's German. So.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. If you are watching this cast, Fast Break, please check your messages. I will be messaging you on YouTube after the cast. And it's just going to be a, hey, thanks for commenting. You win the copy of the game. And hopefully we can do everything digitally because I don't want to, get Amazon shipping and giving your addresses out and things like that involved. But we'll see. Now, thank you for everyone else who entered the giveaway. I'm not planning on doing anything just yet because that's the initial milestone that we hit. And, maybe once the year hits or something, but nothing. I'm not going to promise anything. But thanks again, guys. So we're going to move on to the news. The World Cup teams were revealed a couple days ago. And the teams itself, I think we're in phase 2 now. So in the beginning of September, I don't think they have any official dates unless I'm wrong, is going to be a single elimination online qualifiers. Yes. Teams representing multiple different nations will regionally take part in a best of 3 single elimination online qualifiers starting in September. So the winners of this will then go to BlizzCon in November. And it's the top 16 teams. So for the Americas, let's do Team USA.
Can we do one thing first and talk about the premise of the World Cup? Because I feel a little bit dissatisfied with how it went down. Because the thing is, you have the basic idea, obviously, is to get as much traction as you can possibly get, which is, you have the streamers in these voting lineups. You have the public votes. Nobody's actually picking them. Nobody's actually taking them based on any objective merits I could make out. And there have been some instances where I was quite honestly outraged that some people weren't invited, right? So, for instance, you had a guy like Cool Matt in this lineup who was probably for good 4 months in beta the best player in the game. Was on Envious at the time, or Hubris, which dominated the game. Now he's on Fnatic. He went to Gamescom. He's going to be on the OW Open and possibly will be playing on TBS. And this guy hasn't even gotten an email from Blizzard to get to be possibly selected as an invitation. And I really question why. Because Tailspin got one, right? Then there's a couple of other guys on the list where I'm thinking, okay, are we really basing this on social media reach when you have a guy that has a pretty good camera presence, is also one of the most skilled players in the North American region, and then he's not picked because he has like 500 less followers than the next guy? It's like silly, because this guy has the potential to be one of the superstars of the region. And if you have the projected, trajectory of him going potentially, and he's going to be on E-League, I really question the parameters that they, chose to pick this. And I understand it's a popularity contest inherently, which in itself is a little bit sad, let's be honest, because...
Well, to play devil's advocate on that point it is sad, because we'd always like to see like a better, more like clash of really good players against each other, get really good, Overwatch games. But it's BlizzCon, it's popularity contest, just like you said, just like anything else. They want to get numbers, they want to get views, they want to see, people who have hundreds of followers watch that game just because their favorite streamer or, personality is in the game. So if they have to pick one over the other, they're going to pick people with more, and that's not my opinion, that's just devil's advocate opinion.
Okay. Is someone, for instance, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but someone like, let's say, PokeLols or whatever he's called, right?
Yeah.
He has like average 3K viewers, I guess, maybe less. He has like a reach, let's say 20,000. I don't know how much followers he has. Maybe he has much more. I don't know. Does he really make a dent in the viewership, or is there not enough overlap in people that would generally anyway watch BlizzCon and watch Overwatch content? Is he really that much of a, benefit to the podcast that you would justify bringing him over, promoting the competitive scene over, very skilled players, which he's not bad. We're going to talk about far worse players later on, right? Yeah. We're going to talk about rank 40 people, right, being selected. But again, I question, if you want to promote Overwatch as an esport, the question is, are you really, promoting it that way? And the problem really also is that there are some auto invites, which I get why that is required for some regions, but is that really that kind of allows people to pick very lazy picks? Because there's also no prize money, there's no reason to play well, right? You get an entrance fee of $3,000 and you get all your expenses paid for, and you go to BlizzCon, which is pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if. I guess you could argue, or my argument or my question rather is it really a better promotion for the game to have someone that has a little bit more outreach for esport? Because I assume that's what, the promotion is. I can't imagine it's for Overwatch. Why would you, if someone's watching an Overwatch streamer, they're watching Overwatch already and probably also playing it. So I don't know. I really wonder the justification also, and then taking into account all the trajectories that potential. There's other people like Custer from Fnatic also wasn't even invited, I think, on the Australian team, right?
Yeah.
Then there's some, for instance, for Kip, which is the crazy, guy from Reunited that had an amazing showing at the Atlantic Showdown. Mm-hmm. He actually slept on the email. I think it got caught in a spam filter or something, and he forgot to respond to the email. Now he wasn't up for the vote. Okay, that's his fault, but still, right? I don't know. But I think the basic premise is questionable. Okay, I understand you do it in the first year. I really, really hope this is not going to happen in the second year, that it's up for a community vote or anything. I really want to have, the WCG feeling that we had in the past in other games, where you really had the feeling, okay, your country sends its best players and really fights, for that. And considering there's no prize money, I'm almost expecting a lot of, shenanigans, like playing 6 Torbjorn. Okay,
I
if
hope
there's
not.
1 euro limit, Yeah, I don't think teams are going to take it very seriously.
I don't know if you guys watch the international at all, but like I love the international. It's so cool. It's nice to have like, an esports Super Bowl basically, and it's all just hardcore, super good Dota. But then they blow off steam and they have the 10v10, which for people who don't know, Dota is normally a 5v5 game. They have a 10v10 game, and then this year they released a new hero, and that they joked like one of the casters entered a cheat code and summoned the new hero, and he's wreaking havoc, and all these teams are having a good time. It's just all stars. It's not team versus team. It's random players against random players. But it's cool. It's fun. It goes on for maybe an hour at most, and then you get back to really good Dota. To have an Overwatch tournament where potentially you're going to see just bullshit happen until all those teams fall out of the brackets is kind of pointless. Like, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it definitely could. For people who know they're going to lose and they just go and play stupid shit.
I'm wondering how these teams are feeling about their teammates that got shoot in based on social media and like that affecting their chances, if that'll affect their outlook on the match. Like, I mean, if I got matched with someone who was level 40 and I was like in this thing, I'd be pretty pissed and feeling like I got hamstringed in the long run, and I probably wouldn't take it serious and would do some stupid Torbjorn rush or something like that.
There's one instance where I know a pro player called out his teammate or captain, which is for Benelux. It's too easy. Actually, was very upset. Some guy was obviously called Harambe, and he obviously won the vote. Memes, right? And he picked his friends over Morte and like legit pro players that, Morte was in the final for Gamescom and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they are not taking it seriously. It's like they're taking the free rides. They're giving their friends basically 3K.
Oh, here it is. Benelux, Harambe, Easy, ZE, Kalave, and Too Easy.
Yeah.
Dante and Spree.
Yeah, that are the captain's page.
Those are his friends, Dante and Spree.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Too Easy didn't. I haven't heard of this Harambe guy.
That's basically Yeah, it's basically memes, right? It's crazy to me. Okay, maybe Morte is not. He's more like the calculated guy. He actually made some amazing things happen recently. He kind of like had it sort of like a. He asked pro players based on the format that OW Open had for E-League, and they all said, okay, the current format is not really, it was single elimination and everything. And he actually made a open letter to E-League, or closed letter rather, and address these issues, and they're actually going to change that based on that. So Morte is really, I think he also studies medicine, so he's not he's not like the cool guy that the normal gaming community gets behind. Yeah. Now, why Too Easy isn't the captain is that it really is based on the meme, because I don't think Harambe has nearly as much social media following or anything. I'm not even sure if he streams anything. I had him a couple of times in games. He's all right. He's not a pro player though. Right?
No, I mean, he's level 6 or rank 65. He's not like horrible, but I mean, he's right around.
In comparison, he is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. To play a little bit of devil's advocate, because you have to have the other side. This is not a competitive tournament. This is a show match. Show what the game could be, but for whatever reason, they don't want to. They don't want to have like an invitational, bring in teams, fight for who is the best. They want to have this is what the game could be. This is how it's fun, it's good time, and show everybody off. Which, my opinion, is stupid. They already have tons of media following, tons of people who want to see a professional, sanctioned BlizzCon tournament. Fight to the death, good teams. Yeah. But we're past that. They've already made their decision. There's no going back. So we have to accept the tournament for what it's going to be. If you want to watch super competitive stuff, there's plenty of other tournaments going on. But
and while that's true, I think at least the competitive players could have said, okay, let's take this as seriously as possible. Let's not make this game, this tournament a joke. And you actually saw this because there's some pressure in the European there's qualifiers for it. So the Team Germany or Team Spain or Team France, they aren't automatically qualified like Team USA or Canada is. Yeah. So they actually had to pick the best picks in order to get there potentially, right? The qualifying rounds are still getting there, but and this is, I think this, if there weren't like set picks, so if USA wasn't automatically qualified, I think maybe we would have seen other picks, even though, okay, for USA, I don't have much to moan about, but yeah. I don't know.
It's hard because at the same time, I mean, I'm just going back a little bit on something you mentioned earlier, which is, you get rank 75, 80 players, even, a little bit higher. And then you get somebody, like you said, who's rank 40 on your team. Okay, yeah, you got the shit end of the stick because he either fucks around or he plays for fun or whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, you should just, instead of insulting the guy and being like, oh, well, we're screwed, all Torbjorns, really the captain should be like, all right, this is the team that I'm put with. I'm going to put you on support or, whatever. And we're going to do our best. Even though our ranks are different, I'm not going to hold that against you. We're still going to try hard.
That said, though, that's a lot of work to do. And that's work you could be putting towards some other competition that'll pay, because you're going to have to practice with this guy in the role at least, at some amount of time to, like, get it to work.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Even doing that is an investment.
I mean, you can't have the best, I guess, because if it's of the mindset of, well, I'm screwed, we're gonna lose. Well, okay, man, you don't gotta go, blast somebody on social media. I mean, maybe if it's to get more views, whatever. But if it's I'm gonna try my best, well, then try your best. But if it's it's just a show match, I got the shit end of the stick. Okay, well, then just go and have a good time. Go to BlizzCon, you got full, well, if you make it through eliminations, but, go have a good time, try your best. If you don't, whatever, you were putting your focus towards real tournaments anyways. You can't have, oh, my team sucks, and, well, we should try really hard.
I also really question if this actually produces watchable content. Because if there's one guy actually always getting dicked on and making very obvious mistakes, right? If it's the difference between an 80 and a 40 is
huge.
You could probably put 3 40s against an 80 and you would probably win the fight, right? They are this bad, right? So, okay, maybe the guy was trolling. And by the way, this 40 guy, 41, I think he is the captain of Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also automatically qualified. He did make solid picks, I think, though, as far as my research went. But yeah, is it producing watchable content? And what's the so the intent is to promote Overwatch. Okay, is it the intent to promote Overwatch? Or is it the intent to promote competitive Overwatch? Because most definitely the latter will be like that will be a shit show. You're not promoting competitive Overwatch by showing these games simply because that's not what players like. Even if you feel like you're liking what you're watching, that's actually not what's going to happen in actual competitive games, right? It will be a very different experience for the vast majority of teams, because some teams are actually very stacked, and you can, if they go try hard, it's basically, it's a stomp, right? It will be stumps.
You could look at it from a personality standpoint and say that's the basis of the promotion. Granted, the Overwatch play itself isn't going to be very high, but it'll be very interesting to see players play with other players that don't, or play with players you haven't heard of, and play on teams that, like, say you're from, like, Austria, or say you're from America, and you're playing Austria, you could learn about some characters you'd never really get cast. So from that perspective, it kind of sidesteps promoting Overwatch and promoting Overwatch play. It kind of promotes the Overwatch personalities, in my opinion, and that's not a bad thing.
It's not horrible, but to again step back a little bit back on the point of does it produce good competitive Overwatch? The people who are tuning in are just like, some of the people who are just tuning in because it's BlizzCon are probably never going to watch Overwatch tournaments anyways. They're just tuning in. Oh, cool. Like, I know this streamer, or I know, this game. I've heard of it, but I don't watch the tournaments for it. Cool. It produces fun content, whatever for them. But as far as promoting the game is like people who are playing CS or TF2 or, older like arena shooters who haven't actually made the jump yet, which is probably some few, is when you tune in to watch the game, is it even going to be castable? Like when you had people doing the multiple tracers on King of the Hill and it was just like a nonstop, and the, casters were like, well, we don't really have much to say. Like they're just not doing anything that we can analyze. Like if it's just people just going through a meat grinder for the first couple games, it's just like, well, they're getting shit on.
It doesn't help that all the casters are getting picked for players too, right? Stir and fucking Hulk, being picked.
Here's a thought. So maybe what they were thinking is they explicitly didn't want competitive play. Maybe they thought to a first-time viewer, explicitly competitive play might be too much for them and not as interesting as, say, a pub-type play. So, there's some games I can't watch. I just won't watch competitive play because it's not interesting to me. Smash Brothers is one, just because it's highly reliant on. I know.
I mean, yeah.
It's highly reliant on Fox and wave dashing, so that doesn't appeal to me. I could see the technical prowess of these players and how incredible they are pulling this stuff off, but I would rather watch Ganondorf spike someone,
just meteor kick people and
so I don't know. So that might be something they were shooting for, and the venue kind of makes sense as you outlined. It's not the typical viewer of esports, and maybe in that way it could garner some hype for the game itself.
I do have to actually ask a question for you guys, if because you brought up Smash and Ganondorf. There is a player called Bizarro Flame who plays Ganondorf, and he actually plays really well. He's not the very top, but he's solid mid tier. He womps. Is there anybody that plays a low tier, like a Bastion or like a Torbjorn, that is going to the World Cup? You know what I mean? That's all they play, but they're really freaking good at it, or like a May or something.
Well, we might see some matchups like Pharah versus Roadhog type strange edge cases pop up a lot. That might be interesting to see how Pharah deals with Roadhog hooks constantly. That might be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's still a little bit down the line, right? That's probably maybe even one big patch in between, and we really don't know. We don't even know what the meta will be like with the recent patch that has just deployed from the PTR, right? So we'll see.
Well, I'm talking off meta, assuming these teams don't go 100% meta. That's kind of what the experience is going to be, I believe.
Dude, the thing that I hope for is I really hope that it's not America versus Europe versus the Asian teams. I want to see a Mexican or Australian or a Spanish team or something crazy, like an African. I guess that kind of come out weird, but the teams that you don't expect to do well, I want at least a couple of them to go to BlizzCon. Because I know in League of Legends, for the meta between the American, European, and Asian teams was completely different. I mean, Europe and America are a lot closer, but Asian teams would use characters that nobody's ever heard of, or not heard of, but nobody ever plays regularly, and just wreck the entire American team sometimes. And that's what I want to see. Now you have people who are playing, well, I don't know about after the nerfs, but like Genji and McCree and, people playing Lucio and Zenyatta and stuff like that. But I want to see somebody come out of the gate and be like, I don't know, someone just wrecks with Sombra, or not Sombra, I don't know why I said Sombra, with Anna and something where like a soldier, like Anna soldier combo or something like that does, we don't think it works, but they make it work type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some potential for the storyline, for some great storylines if certain teams, meet each other. Because okay, you have super teams, right? I guess we can kind of tie this into the discussion about the teams, but like this super team is Sweden. Like that is like if you put that into a real team and maybe get one less DPS player and fix them around, that's like a world-class team instantly, right? Yeah. So, or USA is also not that bad.
They actually have one tank player.
Yeah, and then you have like teams like China who just have like 6 players from the same organization. They're also from IG. Now, to be fair, it's 5 from the same team and 1 guy from the sister team, I believe, is how it turned out. So it's not the perfect 6 team they got into the World Cup, but it's 6 people from the same organization, and there's a good chance they scrim each other quite often, so they know each other well. And then obviously Korea could be, like just imagine playing at BlizzCon and it's all fun and games until, at the later stages, like USA and Sweden get into the semifinals, and then suddenly they meet these Korean and Chinese players. It's like, wow, this is hard, man. What? Okay. Let's sit upright. Let's not pick Torbjorn offensive or something. Wow, this is getting hard, right? That could be a super interesting storyline potentially, because our current understanding is, or you see it everywhere in these threads. It's like, yeah, Koreans have never accomplished anything in FPS titles, which is not true. But I guess there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that, or results where Europeans or sometimes NA players dominate these titles. But then there's also what happens with China. Are they involved, right? And currently, it kind of feels like Koreans still look a little bit to the European meta and kind of apply that to themselves. I wonder if this will change till then. Maybe they start, enforcing a new meta, and maybe they do look scary, and maybe they do match up the individual skill that we assume. Like maybe they can be on par with Swedish players, right? So that's basically exactly the type of storyline I want out of these events, which I feel like, I hope, like at the early stages is going to be goofy and everything, and everyone gets a little bit for themselves. But the further you get into the tournament, the more serious teams you get. And I hope they actually also scrim a lot, and then you actually have these clashes of teams, right? Where you can actually, sort of get an idea where the level of Asian Overwatch is. I hope that happens.
No, go ahead, sorry.
I want to see Germany team versus Sweden. That will be a neat match. I want to see Tivik like Genji, Internet Hulk, and like see the casters, like what they make of that as far as a storyline.
Yeah, and that is also like Team Germany and Team Sweden are the perfect examples to display that, having this pressure of having to qualify really helped, getting these teams together, because Internet Hulk, who's the captain for Germany, also picked basically the best German players he could have picked. Right, so and he picked R-Tier from Dignitas and Skipjack from Misfits, right? And these also fit perfectly into the slots we needed. You can kind of make the, Burrix is also a support. He played in a lot of well-known teams in the beta. Don't know where he plays now. And then you have, I think his name is Sasura. I actually never encountered him. And yeah, okay, he kind of obviously then has to, fill the role that's needed. But then again, this team could go very far. obviously expect them to qualify because there's 6 slots for Europe, right? There's still some qualification to do, but on paper they're one of the stronger lineups. But yeah, I think this is the best argument for if the selection process had more pressure applied to the captains to actually do well and not just auto-qualify, I think we could have had a higher quality tournament, even though I do understand why you have to kind of, invite USA simply because of the viewership, right? Yeah. What would be a World Cup event if USA is not there, right?
Yeah. If you have to, because we're just criticizing, if you have to say, is there anything you're looking forward to as far as this tournament goes? Do you think that there's going to be anything positive out of it? Or you think it's going to be basically a shitfest until all the shitty teams drop out? And then it might get actually competitive at, the semifinals, quarterfinals type of deal.
I guess it'd be kind of a mix. There'd be some try-harding of bad teams, and then there'd be some fuckery of some decent teams, and then maybe finals, quarterfinals, semifinals, things get a little bit more real. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I'm trying to click on this thing. Okay. We have gone on a little bit about this, so I do want to move on from it.
Can I just talk about Team Canada, because I have to get this off my chest, man.
Okay.
Surefour, are you all right, mate? Is it? Are you what? What is going on? Okay, let's look at the timelines. He goes to Atlantic Showdown, and he has a pretty stellar performance, probably in the top 3 of individual players in this tournament. And he goes on to an interview where he thrashes his team, right, for bad performance, and says I played the best I could have done. And then he gets voted as the team captain for Team Canada and picks Huck, right, who's the former SC2 player who tries to be, an analytic caster, who's 80, when you have people like Mangachu or Axie who are pro players behind that, and he picks fucking Logan the Best, who I don't know, maybe he's a famous streamer, I have no idea. He's I think he's also 80 skill, but still no pro player. Quite obviously not a pro player. Mate, if someone's holding a gun to your head, can you blink, man? Is this some crazy victim complex? Maybe I'm wrong. It's his Goku chamber where he's okay, I gotta carry even, these 2 guys are his training weights where he has to carry even harder. It's crazy to me how a guy like that could, and especially with the background of blaming a team, the only thing that this tells me is that he doesn't take this tournament at all seriously.
It might be that he looked at what the potential teams are going to be and was I don't think I can compete with what's probably going to come out of 3 of those teams. So maybe he kind of hedged his bets and wanted to go for something that was more hype than it was competitive. That would be my thought.
I can see Huck being hype. Logan the Best, no, dude. That's not at all hype. That's the thing.
Is it one of his buddies though? I'm wondering if it's a buddy of his.
I'm not sure. It might be. And in that case, I also find it pretty low, to be honest. If you're still representing your country, right? If you can either put on a show, then you invite the biggest characters. So, for instance, that's why I don't mind Siegel being picked, because I'm sure his numbers are actually significant enough where I do believe that it has merit in such a tournament to invite him, and he's also a decent player. But the guys he invited, it's not like they are massively, outreaching the other players other than Huck. Okay, Huck, has a pretty big following, but Huck also scrimmed a bunch. I don't mind Huck as much, to be honest, other than this Logan guy, who, to my knowledge, has never seen a scrim from the inside. And it's just mind-boggling to me that a guy that recently was so upset with his team not performing around him would not pick the absolute best players around him. which then basically tells me he's ready to troll, right? Or he wants to keep his ego, nicely tucked in. And if they do lose, it's like, yeah, but I really didn't take it that seriously, It's like I took these streamers or these casters, and I still got to the quarterfinals. Like, hey, right? It's like, I don't know. Maybe this is. I'm not even sure if this is like a German thing or something, because we usually aren't proud of our heritage, But yeah. I think if I would play for my country, I would do my absolute best. And especially if I'm the team captain, I would also do my absolute best to pick the best players to represent the country, right?
I think it's an NA type deal. I mean, I don't want to talk for Canada, but I think it's the type of thing where if he has some ulterior motive, like, oh, I got team captain, and I'm going to prove a point by inviting whatever players I want. We're going to get far and we're going to lose. Well, I invited a bunch of shitters and look how far we still got. If I would have really tried.
It's basically Cloud9 too.
All right, man. All right, man. But,
Shots fired.
It's, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I think Reva is actually like on the verge of being out of the door. I think he recently changed his Twitter handle from C9 Reva to just some Reva stuff. And this is obviously not solid evidence that he's out of the team, but you question why would that be? Is he like preparing, or I don't know.
I think Cloud9 is doing, fairly decent. All right. I live in a town where everybody roots for the Lions, so it's a lot better than that. Anyways, moving on. I think that took up pretty much the majority of the cast, but a few anecdotal stuff I want to mention just to spice up the cast a little bit. For anybody on consoles, for anybody that doesn't own the game and on consoles, which I very doubt, unless you randomly clicked on this video, you'd be watching it. September 9th through the 12th is going to be another free weekend for Overwatch, which is super cool. But why wouldn't they do it on PC too? Like, why the consoles get special treatment? Huh?
I don't know. Probably some marketing reason that's based on graphs and numbers, and
maybe everybody on on PC already plays it.
Maybe it might be
It's also much more affordable, right? It's on PC you can get it for 40, and on console it's always 60.
You have to get it for 60. But anecdotal, just small little tidbit for that. Another discussion that came up on the subreddit is something that I've actually mentioned on the cast before, is the brawls. So for anyone that plays both Overwatch and Hearthstone, I don't know if either of you have played Hearthstone, but when they introduced Weekly Brawl, which is where the system came from, it came from Hearthstone, it became this thing where, at first it was like like the hero limit thing, where it's girl power, so it's all girls, and it's the ninja, or like the ninjas or whatever, so it's all Genjis or all Hanzos, and all of those end up being pretty shitty because it's just the normal game with stupid limitations on it. Where we started to see a little bit of a shift was the first time we got like Lucio Ball, where the game mode was not that fun. It wasn't amazing or anything. I messed around with it one game, I think, and then I went back to playing the normal. But Brawl for me is a way to blow off steam, or have fun. If I don't have much time, just jump into a game and then bullshit around. But when Lucio Ball came out, we started to see a shift in mechanics, which makes the game a lot more fun. So actually, I'm going to correct myself. I do believe before Lucio Ball there was, if you die, you spawn as a different hero. But that type of stuff is a lot better than the hero limitations, and that's what people are talking about. And Jeff actually made a comment on it, saying that in the fall and in the winter, in that area towards the end of the year, they actually are planning on releasing a couple of better brawls, things like unlimited ultimates, or like random ultimates, like you use it and then it recharges and you get a different ultimate. This is not him saying that, this is just me coming up with ideas. And that's where it starts to get into, I think it's fun, even though competitive, extremely competitive people, like I'm going to guess, Volcha, you don't care that much about it. Am I wrong?
I will say, my favorite brawl so far was this Eichenwalde brawl, because I could just
because it was the new map.
Well, I could queue into the same map whenever I wanted without having to go through a custom
That's
game,
true.
and get like a decent match. I really like that for a brawl. But yes, I don't care about altered game modes too much.
Mm-hmm. I think there's, like, for me, when I play Brawl and Hearthstone, that's quite an obvious difference why I don't enjoy them as much in Overwatch. Because in Overwatch, these the brawls are limiting. You get less options most of the time, especially with these character restrictions. While in the better brawls, or at least for me, and I think that this could easily be supported by player numbers for Hearthstone, you enhance the content or add actually new content. You get new cards, you get new game modes. Sometimes it's like cool stuff. Usually you play 1v1 and then suddenly you play together against the AI, like just completely new game concepts, which is also why I kind of liked Lucio, even though the actual gameplay was really not that engaging, but it was something I had at least played once or twice, right?
Yeah.
And tried it out.
Completely different.
Yes. And in Hearthstone, you actually have an incentive, which is
you get a pack.
You get a pack, exactly. And I wonder if you can't just attach a box to these brawls
for a win of the week. Yeah.
Yes. And then, and to incentivize that, I would actually go in there and play for one box, even though I, don't really care too much about them. But yeah, I don't know. I think just getting something for trying it out, and maybe trying it out may grab my curiosity, but playing till I win one is like really. I kind of got the concept. If the concept is like super fun, I'm probably not going to play it again. So,
I mean, they could do something crazy. Like they could do like Lucio races or something like that, where like you have to race through King's Row, or you have to race through Numbani or something like that, and just go through check marks. It's just something completely out of the ball, like stupid. It doesn't have to be, competitive games. It's just a brawl. It's just for people who. It's the same concept of if anyone's played League, ARAMs. It's some people I played them and I don't care for ARAMs, but some people literally that's all they play because they're either super bad at the regular game, so they just want to blow off steam and have fun, or they just really like it.
Dude, I would love a map, for instance, like you can only play Lucio and there's like kids on the sidelines and they're like, the ground is lava. And then you have to like grind on the walls, and whoever falls down has to start from the start again.
That's like some Mario Party shit. Like that would actually be really fun.
And you would actually have to time your speed boost so you get some jumps, so it wouldn't be super easy. Because to be honest, after the change that you can stick to walls more than 3 seconds, it got kind of easy, and also just spamming space will often not have you fall down, but make it a little bit challenging. And I think that could be a great brawl. And you need to kind of come up with maps for that, but just having geometrical objects to just have these parkours basically, I think that would be super fun. And I can't imagine this would take up too much resources to create.
Just thought of one. You have just 6 people in a brawl, right? And it's a shooting range, and you're all McCree. You only get 6 shots a round, and it's a best of 3 rounds, and you got to shoot further and further targets. Boom. Game modes. Blizzard, hire me. It's just coming from, like when I played CS Source, when I was 14, 13, something like that, I played the normal game. It was okay, but I mainly played the custom games because I sucked at the normal game because I didn't try hard enough. But I loved it. I loved Counter-Strike. It added another section to the game for people who didn't like to play the normal game. And while, you want people to play the normal game, sometimes people just they don't get it. They don't like it. They, have to. It's adding people to the community who will eventually make that bridge over after, they get comfortable with the characters. And, it's proven time and time again. I mean, Warcraft 3 became MOBAs. Those things became huge from custom games. Dota has custom games. StarCraft has custom games. All of these create separate communities that you don't want to be you don't want to split your community, like I said, but they make people love the game who wouldn't normally. I still really think that it's a good idea.
After all these years, I still regularly get on any CS version. So, for instance, right now it's CSGO, and I still surf. CS surf, like that. The mechanic has been the same since 1.6. Was it Source? I'm not sure, but still, that's like super chilling to me, and it's like such a great game mode.
Imagine if they made some type of like Lucio surf maps, and you were always Lucio, and you just chilled and tried to do like rollerblade courses and stuff. It'd be super cool.
Yep. And then I would enjoy these more. Also, if you just maybe focus on some aspects that also improve players' games while not being that, not feeling like practice necessarily. Yeah. Like, focus on movement, focus on aim, focus on, I don't know, positioning. So you could be like, always be 20 meters away from two targets at the same time that try to get close to you or something. It could be fun stuff that also helps people practice a little bit. I think generally, like, putting a little bit more resources into these brawls, like getting one or two developers more on that, would probably help the game mode a lot. And I think you can easily justify the added costs to that game mode if they were really good, and actually had purpose.
Okay. So this kind of is just going to lead in easily because it was the Brawl on the PTR. And I don't want to, come up with, we could sit here all day and come up with game modes, but the Eichenwalde, hopefully, God, I know I'm just butchering it every time, but yes, please, you're a German ambassador. Anyways, the actual map itself, now that we've sunk in, got our teeth into, I believe it's 2 weeks now of the actual map, good things, bad things, things that you didn't know the first time around, things like tricks or anything like that you guys want to talk about?
So I'll talk about what I like about the map first, and then I'll talk about what I don't like. I like how it's really varied, and it encourages lots of character changes between the sections, notably in the tanks, probably, more than anything. So that's really cool, and it reminds me a little bit of Route 66 in that way. How it has so much different area to fight, maybe even Hollywood, but it seems quite extreme here. What I don't like are the two chokes, the first choke and the last choke. They seem a little bit tough beyond they remind me, the first choke reminds me of like the Hanamura choke minus the flank you can get through the window. I mean, and it's smaller, and you can't like fly up through the window really. You can kind of jump on the bridge, but you're probably going to die doing that. So that first choke is really tough for that, and the way you approach it is at a weird angle. So like spam, Junkrat spam, Symmetra spam seems exceedingly strong in that scenario. Even like a Bastion's kind of pretty tough to break if at that angle. It does have flanks. You can flank around the right and the left, like over the buildings, but you have to expend your abilities to do it. And I don't like chokes that you're basically in the middle of a battlefield with your movement abilities off cooldown. So as a Genji, you'd have to... Actually, I don't know if you could do it with a Genji, but with a Pharah, you'd have to fly up, use your jump pack, and then use your concussive blast to like kind of lame yourself over a building. And then when you land, you're out of everything. You just got to fight, and probably you're going to be caught out. So I don't like considering those flanks because they're not very good. I like flanks that are a little bit more soft on the abilities and allow you to have some escape or more mobility options once you get through. But anyways, that's the first choke. The last choke, it seems.
By last choke, are you talking about the door?
Yeah, the door.
Okay.
That's just like a May wet dream. It's just disgusting. It kind of reminds me of the hangar phase of Gibraltar, only more funnily and
A little, yeah.
and one less choke. I mean, you could just and like the doors they're really tiny, and they're like one side is even is even like a kill room. Like, so if you're defending, you'll look on the right side. That doorway is basically a kill room. You could just spam in that door, and no one's ever gonna get through. And then the other door, you could just make a May door, make it just Mayland.
Yes.
So I don't know. And the middle door that you could fly up, that's I would never suggest ever doing that with any character. Going up that door in the top there, you're just gonna get gibbed instantly. It might as well
fine.
not.
It's fine.
You might as well not be. It might as well not be there. I mean, unless you're diva and you want to like shoot your mech through there and like get play the game on some pub match. That's pretty much what it's for. Oh, those are my impressions of the map so far.
My biggest thing is that the map was out in Brawl for 2 weeks, right? And then, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's now live as of this cast, right? The map?
Looks like it.
Yes.
Where was the balance changes? Where was the, like, making sure it's good for attack and defend and stuff like that? Because I'm reading, posts right here that Jeff says, we're keeping an eye on balance, or on the map balance, making changes as necessary. Whenever we added a new map to beta or alpha, players struggle on attack, and we want to let the dust settle a little bit before making major changes. That's fine. I get it. It's just like when people just started playing the game and they're like, oh my God, Bastion is literally impossible to kill. But look at him now. No one plays him. But to just say, all right, we're going to introduce this new map. Good luck, guys. Have fun testing. And then just flick it on live 2 weeks later without any type of like, oh, I'm going to, move this box here, or, close up a door here or something like that. Why? Like,
I would guess the point of putting on PTR wasn't balance. It was just to make sure Reaper doesn't teleport onto the map, basically, or Reaper doesn't teleport in a room, or turrets don't appear under the floor, that sort of stuff. Which is a shame. I wish they did take a little bit of a balance pass on it before it went live.
Mm-hmm. To me, and that's my biggest problem with the map. It's like the chief designers, like Jeff Kaplan, he knocks on the door of the map designer, goes and the door smashes open. He's like, okay, you got to make a map where May is viable, and not just viable. She has to be a good pick. Okay, yeah. So chokes, lots of chokes, man. Choke him, and then it's like, yeah, okay, I'm doing that. And the guy goes to work, and it's like, oh yeah, May is going to be super strong here. I wonder if she's too strong. Maybe I can. She said I should make it that she's the strongest pick. And he goes to Jeff and presents his map layout, and is very satisfied with his work. And then Jeff is like, oh yeah, by the way, we're buffing that bitch too. And he's like, what the fuck, man?
He's like, oh no, I've created a monster.
This is Mayland. And on the map designer is like, yeah, okay, we might have to, open up some Nope. It's live, bro. Oh, by the way, if anyone asks, it's also your fault for creating the map that way. I think it's basically it's going to be changed down the line.
Yeah, everything has been changed. I mean, even if it's just like positions of boxes to stop turrets from being created and stuff like that.
I think it's a lot more complicated issue to really change maps around than you could ever expect from a PTR, and which makes me maybe a week more could have done that, but I don't know. I think the way all of the maps, how complex they are, what they the story around them. There's sometimes these little hidden stuff is all around the map. It feels like it's really not trivial to change these things around in order to balance, right? I'm trying to remember which maps actually saw difference, like changes to them.
Definitely Temple of yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Anubis, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they added that whole left side.
But that was like a small change, wasn't it? If
it was pretty big on the last point.
No, it's a big in effect. But what they actually had to do is just like cut a little bit,
delete a wall,
out of the wall. Yeah. And I think the entire left room was there in the first round.
It was. It was just that block that you had to either fly or climb over.
Oh yeah, true. It was a block, so not every character could over. Yeah, okay, I remember. Okay, yeah, and that seems like a trivial thing, right? You just take that texture out of the map. That doesn't really change anything. Yeah. Now creating new flanks, right, and essentially changing how the map is played. Maybe removing something. Maybe even having to put a flank in where some iconic stuff hangs up, like maybe some sombrous stuff. It's like, okay, this whole ARG now doesn't work anymore simply because of map balance or something. No, I think that's these issues with Eichenwalde will be a lot harder to change than the changes to Anubis were, for instance.
Yeah,
they should definitely put on PTR the maps before the art pass even gets started. It should just be blocked out, gray, with ambient occlusion on it, and that's about it.
You are talking about the wrong company, man.
Yeah, I know, but that's how they should do it. That's how you do multiplayer shooter maps. Get them tested. You don't want to sink so much work into art and then find out like, oopsie poopsie, it's a shitty map. Like that's terrible. Just block it out.
If Jeff released like an untextured map, Chris Metzen would come down and just fucking kick down his door and just Mortal Kombat fight him personally.
It's how they should do it though. Like put it before the art pass, like 6 months before it's even due to come out, and name it something stupid, and then people play on it, they break it, and then you take all that information back. I know they do this internally anyways, but it's not on such a large scale and with such varying degrees of skill as is in the But I mean, do it this way, and then 6 months later it's all polished, and then just throw it on PTR again, see if like Reaper breaks it, and then put it live 2 weeks later after that.
That's also one big issue you have with brand new games, is that your Q&A team is most likely from some genre you already had in the company. For instance, some World of Warcraft guys now in the Q&A team for Overwatch. You don't have veterans because, for instance, I know for World of Warcraft there's a lot of arena PvP people in that company now designing systems for Legion, right?
Yeah.
So you have VHEL, also, like, for instance, back then, Nitrana and Nocturne were suddenly Q&A guys, and it was noticeable that PvP changed a little bit, and these things, like, they have the pro player feedback and really understand these concepts behind it. Now, you don't have those necessarily in Overwatch unless you're recruiting, like, some godly Quake player or something that really has an idea how maps should be built in FPS. Then again, it's much different in an arena or in an FPS game like Overwatch, in a team game with 6 players now, right? So you don't really have the high quality Q&A that you can expect from a game that now has been out like for 15 years or something.
You don't have team. You don't have a team dedicating like 60 hours to break a map, like to just break it and then like find out what's from that. You probably have QA guys who get together. Okay, guys, let's get together and like let's try to win, and that's like the extent of it, I would imagine. I did QA.
Didn't they say they had a lot of like arena shooters players, and that's why they wanted to make this game? Or like, I don't know if they ever said they had any like old pros. Were they just casual core arena players?
I would imagine how they would do it is they have some pro players or old players that they can go to for a consultation, and they sign like a agreements,
non-disclosure,
and they kind of get their feedback from that.
But they're not like part of the main team, probably.
Maybe they are. How often can you get the whole QA team together to like break a map? I can't imagine they have I can't imagine they have like ex-pros or pro players together for 40 days a week, 40 hours a week trying to break this map for like 3 weeks straight. I can't imagine that.
No.
Which is what you get on PTR sometimes.
As far as balance on the map goes, besides May, do you think anybody else shines pretty highly?
I'll say Junkrat's pretty strong on defense. I'll say Pharah surprised me in how crappy she is on that map. I thought she would be like a goddess, but there's precious little areas she can land on and precious little areas she can dick behind to gain health from like a Mercy or whatever. There's not a lot of cover for her, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Monkey is very strong on attack. Even on defense, he's pretty good, Monkey. Who else? I guess Zen's pretty good all around because he's got long sight lines and he can do his thing with the long sight lines in the middle, even in the chokes. But other than that, I guess those are who shine. Torbjorn doesn't shine.
Torbjorn never shines. All right. Is there anything else, any other big topics you guys want to bring up or talk about for the end of the cast? Anything that irked you? Anything? I know Yiska. Have you been following some competitive games?
To be fair, like, okay, so I had this entire weekend of Atlantic Showdown where I like watched 100%, and then I was quite busy. But to be honest, like, it really didn't help that I now know how awesome Overwatch is offline. That, you know, my interest in online games is almost like, yeah, okay. But because it's quite obvious that the performances of teams are majorly influenced by is it online, is it offline, right? So certain things work differently. Now, for instance, offline, you basically play without sound, especially in a big exhibition hall where you basically have like noise cancelling headphones do nothing basically there, right? You're not hearing footsteps. Then there's a lot of emotion there, right? Like Rogue is like the team that constantly, you know, like cheers and goes ham basically in game, and then when they win, they jump up and they scream and, you know, towards the opponent too. And I also saw that in Takeover already, like the chemistry is there, that they really, you know, fire each other up. And that I'm a lot more interested in this kind of, you know, gameplay and also experience in general. And I think that's why also in any other esports, offline, you know, results are always valued higher than online results. And yeah, obviously, I'm kind of in the wrong scene at the wrong time, at least, you know, because offline events aren't happening much right now. But I'm really looking forward to, you know, the E-League, OW Open, in cooperation with Faceit. I think, like, if the greatest, and that's also why I had a bit of an issue with the World Cup thing, the biggest promotion for me was the game Rogue against Envious. Like, that, basically, I don't know if you guys saw it, but that was the best. Like, if you had ever doubts that Overwatch could be a watchable and very entertaining esport, that is the game you show your friends, right? Super close series, one, you know, honestly, a little bit undervalued, you know, European team against the NA team that is unbeaten for 57 games, and then they edge them out on in a 3-2 score on the last map, where it's also 3-2 on Lijiang. It's like, okay, it can't get closer. If it wasn't for the, you know, the forced map pick of a CP map, that would, like, that's the only taint on this series, and like, that's an instant classic, right? And I would love to see more of these teams, and especially I want to see these rivalries develop a little more, because honestly, a while back, Rogue against Dignitas was exactly that rivalry. Now I want to see more. What happens if Envious doesn't have to play 2 CP 2 times in the best of 3 series, right? What happens if they meet a bunch of times, right? Did Envious learn from it? Did they improve based on their like? Can they overcome their LAN glitches? Because it's quite obvious that some of these players weren't performing at the same level that you see them play offline. Like Tamu wasn't the absolute beast the entire series. He was usually online. So it's very interesting to me how these storylines develop, and then, man, it's hard to motivate myself to watch these online tournaments because of that.
Okay. I mean, definitely we're going to paying attention to some of the bigger ones. Like, obviously, even though it might not be the most competitive, we're going to talk about BlizzCon and the World Cup and stuff like that. And I believe, I can't remember the name of it, but there was another big one that I wanted to pay attention to that was coming up.
I'm actually not sure what the timelines are. When's BlizzCon? Do you guys know?
Yeah, BlizzCon is always the first weekend in November.
Okay.
Or a week-ish in November. Yeah. Those are monthly. What am I... Ooh, Tempo Storm announced a new American roster, guys.
Yeah, it's a mix-up of Northern Gaming Red and what was the other team? Was it Sody Pop? No, it was CLG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a quite interesting lineup. That is a game. That's some games I'm actually looking forward to watch. Also, FaZe is kind of hot right now. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them too.
I'll be watching Team Liquid now that Rafa is officially on the roster.
Oh yeah, that is exciting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I didn't even
that's
see.
more.
Go ahead, sorry.
I recently had an argument with a writer, and basically it comes down to if Team Liquid make these power plays in all the games they do, they participate in, and I argued that they actually do, because if you think about all your favorite esports, if you go through the list, most of the time, if Team Liquid is in that scene, they are shelling out for top talent, and that's exactly what they're doing with Rafa, right? Like that, okay, they're taking a risk kind of on him because he's unproven since now, but he has a track record, obviously, of being an outstanding FPS player, and being an outstanding FPS player with a big name. I can imagine he's not exactly cheap, right? Now, that's basically the Team Liquid way. Yeah, it happened in the league before with Piglet. It happened with Simple, where they took in a gamble on, but shelled out decent money to have him on the team. And this is just a Team Liquid-esque move for me. And I hope it pays off for them, because to me, this is what esports organization in their position should be doing. They just aren't rewarded nearly as enough for these power plays they're making. And I hope that this pays off in Overwatch. Also because I like a couple of players on that team, like, for instance, Minstrel is on that team. And yeah, I wish him the best. Yeah, and obviously seeing Rafa play, like, I think there's very few old FPS veterans that wouldn't love to see like a Quake god also being an absolute god in Overwatch, right? Which the others, like, okay, Cypher is getting there, I think, slowly. Kula is still on these, less impressive picks, which is kind of sad, but yeah, that's how it is. Then the Hang is also a support. You're really kind of looking for the Quake gods to pick up these DPS classes, and I think Rafa is up for the challenge.
I watched a lot of him on his old team where he played with the other Quake guys, and they had him as shot caller, and I don't think it makes sense to have him on shot caller because, he's Rafa and he's like the mental magician in video games, or the video game he played, but it didn't seem to work too well for his team and their synergy or whatever, and it'd be interesting to see how Team Liquid takes his skill set into account for the whole of the team. Before he was playing a lot of Zarya, and Zarya's kind of like the meta queen at the moment, so it'd be interesting to see what that means too.
Yeah. I think it's very different to be, a genius at some macro level play in an FPS and vocalizing that to your team, like the ideas you have in your team, because like even at my level, sometimes it's very, very hard to call important information while I'm trying to shoot someone's head off. It's actually a very unique skill to play at your best or close to it while vocalizing what you want your team to do. That's almost like in CS, for instance, the concept of an in-game leader. It's like, okay, you get 10 kills around or a map, that's fine. Concentrate on calling, and then it's fine if you're just a shit CS player, right?
Yeah.
And because it takes so much mental resources from you to be able to shot call at a high level that you can't really focus on playing. And this is worse in Overwatch because the game is so much faster and so much stuff is happening in every moment, which you have to consider that this is probably harder than in-game leading. Should probably be harder than in CS.
Sometimes shot calling can be kind of intuitive, but when it comes to alts, how you can't be intuitive with team alts matched with your enemy alts matched with your alts. You got to think about it. You can't just intuitively make calls like that. Game doesn't allow it.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Also, FaZe versus Cloud9 starts in 20 minutes. Are you guys ready for a epic game between FaZe?
That would be a good game, I think.
It's just part of the monthly melee.
Okay.
But I feel like we're kind of rambling a bit just to fill out the cast. So I want to put a nice little bow at the end of it, kind of wrap things up. Do you guys have anything that you've been working on? Still just playing a bunch?
Just playing with the new team. That's about it.
Oh,
not making any content really on my end. Just focusing on team.
Are you guys progressing? Are you guys doing well?
We just got put together, so no, not yet.
Oh, okay. Myself, I actually have been playing a lot of Legion. I know people want hardcore Overwatch, but I jump. I like Blizzard. I like all their games. But I actually have been hopping back on that streaming game. So if you guys do want to check me out, it's just Trips on Twitch. I believe it's right here on the actual layout of the podcast. And anything, Yiska? You just playing a bunch, doing life stuff?
Life stuff. I'm preparing a feature article, probably on Tivik. I also kind of want to do a video, sort of okay, how right was Reddit when they said that no player is going to be here after the game launches?
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of screenshots with nice comments that illustrate exactly this point, how right they were. But I'm not sure if I'm petty enough to or want to gloat as much. But
to actually go forth and do it.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So I think that about wraps it up for this week, guys. I hope that everybody enjoyed this week's cast. Make sure, if you're not already, to follow us on Twitch and Twitter so that you know that when we go live, I always announce it on Twitter. If you just like the, afterthought, if you like the VODs, that's completely fine. We do put them on YouTube either a day or two after, roughly. So make sure you subscribe for more of that. You guys have been, awesome and giving us a nice, good number, gotten our URL, and that's why we did the giveaway. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching another week's cast, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.